Good morning, Mike Doe here at Melco, part of the applications team, and today we're going to talk about making things a little bit more efficient when working with the Melco XTs, XTSs, EMT16s, EMT16 Pluses. So I'm here with a couple of my friends. No, I'm not talking about my machines, although they are my friends. Scott Stingle is here with us today.
Hello, everyone.
He'll be answering questions on Facebook, and behind the screens over to my right is Mr. Nate Moore.
Hi.
He doesn't have a microphone, so we'll just make noises that sound like Nate. So, so today we're going to talk about barcoding. We're going to talk about queuing. We're going to talk about master queuing. We're going to talk about just making things more efficient. Because I know, and maybe some of you don't know this, but before I started at Melco in 2002, I was actually a Melco customer. Bought my first machine from Melco, I believe it was in 98. It was either 97 or 98. Years kind of fly by now that I'm getting old and AARP is knocking at the door. And no, I'm just kidding. I'm almost at AARP age, a couple more years. But anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, efficiencies, yes. So it was just always just a challenge to try to get everything to be as efficient as possible. So today we're going to talk about stuff that if you have XT, XTS, EMT16, EMT16 Plus machines, you have these abilities now. So it's not something that I'm here to try to sell you on. You've already bought this functionality. So what we're going to show today, if you have some of those machines that I just mentioned, you have this capability. Now just to preface this, this is not something that is a part of the E16 Bernina E16, and it is not part of the Bravo or Bravo OSs. Just to make that quite clear, this is something that Melco believes is a more of a commercial type of business setup. So the barcoding, things like that, just to clear the air and make sure that we're clear on that. So we will jump into this. First of all, let's talk about a barcode reader. About 10, 15, 20 years ago, these things were really expensive, a couple $100 a piece. Now we can get them for, I think I've got a link that I sent to the boys that they'll be posting that has this for $20 on Amazon. So if you have Amazon Prime, you can get this guy for $20 and you're good to go. They have wireless ones that work well if you don't want to have a tether and you don't mind charging it at night, if you can remember to do that. I think those are more in the $30, $40, $50 neighborhood, but any keyboard wedge, so once again, keyboard wedge barcode reader will work, and basically all barcode readers nowadays are keyboard wedge. And what that means, what does keyboard wedge mean? Keyboard wedge means that when this scans a barcode, it emulates keyboard strokes that we would do as humans. This is just emulating those keyboard strokes as it reads the barcode. Okay? How do we get set up on this? So let's flip over to the screen for a minute, and I'm going to go ahead and go over into Design Shop. And if you go in Design Shop and you do Tools, Options, and you go over to Barcode Options, which you probably didn't even know this tab was there, you will see that you've got the ability to turn this on. And so the first thing that you're going to need to do is enable the barcode reader, and then you're going to want to download a barcode font. And so I've got another link that Scott will be posting that has this barcode link in it. Once you install that barcode, and let me just, to install the barcode, if we go back to the main screen for 1 second, to install the barcode, it's a TrueType font. So once you download it, you click on the TTF, it opens up and it says install. So this is a Windows font, not a Design Shop font. So you don't have to find a folder to put it in. You just click install. Once you've downloaded it, if it's zipped, you have to unzip it first and then install it. So I believe we've done previous video on installing TrueType fonts. So, and Dan last week gave us a really good tutorial. I thought it was awesome. I don't know about you guys, but a really good tutorial on finding information about that. So check out Dan's video if you need to find how to do the TrueType font. It's almost like looking in the mirror when you're a kid. I know it's hard to believe, but I used to go get my hair cut, and you would see the mirrors before, in front of you and behind you, and there'd be like a million of you getting your hair cut. I always thought that was interesting when I was a kid. Anyways, back to the screen. Once we have that font installed, we click on Browse here, and we find the font. So in my case, it is, I did 3 of 9 barcode, I think it is. So I'm going to just cruise up. And 3 of 9 barcode, there it is. I always leave the font style on regular. And then I like the font size at either 36 or 48. Anything smaller than that is too small, and 72 is definitely too big. So you can see the preview here starts to get a little choppy. So you want it there, and you would think, hey, let's do bold, but you can see how that kind of shrinks in some of the lines down here. So leave it as regular, 36, and have your font selected. Now, the next thing that you can do is you can actually take and print out any active hoops that you have in your list. And so I did that already. You click this and then click print. And if we can come back to the main screen for a second. Like I said, I already did it. And so I've got this, and maybe overhead would be better. Yeah, so I've got this sheet printout of all the active hoops that I have in my list right now. Now, you'll want to make sure that you turn on any hoops that you have. And once again, we've done videos on how to turn hoops on. Have we not done that?
No, we have. The question, I had a question in my head.
Oh. Sorry, Nate had the big question mark pop up above his head, so I was trying to answer that for him, but now the question mark's gone. Do we know the question?
Will, if you have a barcode printed out, but you don't have it active, will it select the hoop?
It will not.
Okay, you may have to repeat that.
Yeah, so you'll want to make sure once you print these out, and you want to make sure that barcoding is activated. And so, yeah, these printed out, then what I did is I actually took, and I did 2 printouts, and I cut it out and took and put the barcodes onto the hoops themselves, so that when I put it onto the machine, before I do that, I can scan the barcode. So we'll get into that here in a second. But once again, all this is built into your software. If you are a XT, XTS, EMT16, EMT16 Plus user, you have all these abilities. You don't have to buy an upgrade to your software. You don't have to pay Melco thousands of dollars to get this ability. It's there already. You just may not be using it. You may be one of those, and if so, comment on how cool it is if you're using the barcodes. But pretty much everybody that I've visited, I've only seen large accounts use it, and they actually use it in just a small amount. They never use it on the hoops, which is a shame because it's a really good way to keep track of what's going on to the machine. So one other thing, let's jump over to the screen again. To get information on barcode reading, we'll actually post a link for this, but if you go to melco-service.com, if you don't have this bookmarked on your web browser, I would highly suggest having melco-service.com bookmarked. Go over here to this little question mark FAQ, and then all I did was I just typed in barcode. And so when I did that, I pressed enter, and down here is a link that takes you to information on why use barcode, speeding up production. And so then once I click on it, it'll go into the operator's manual, and it'll actually take us to that page. If I'm patient, it'll take us to that page that's got the barcode information in it. So really good information here on how to enable it in OS. So make sure that you follow those instructions. There's a little tip down here about making sure that the barcode reader is programmed correctly. And so make sure you read through this, talking about the keyboard wedge again, making sure that it reads the first asterisk as a load. And this that information will come with the barcode reader. There'll be like little barcodes that says, here's how to program the barcode reader. But this is normal operation of a barcode reader. This isn't something special just for Melco. So that information is vital if you want to use this. So once I had my hoops printed out, we'll just jump over to OS real quick. And we'll see that I have two machines. And right now on machine 2 that I've got, if we could do the split screen, Nate, the screen, and yep, perfect. So what I'm going to do is I took and grabbed a couple of Scott's designs, and I printed these out of Design Shop. So I should have showed that to you. Let's jump back over to Design Shop real quick. I apologize. I'm so excited to show you guys all this stuff that I'm skipping certain steps. So if I open one of the designs, so let's do the Wilson Farms one. Multiple things in here. First is I can go to File and I can do Print Preview, and if I've got my barcode activated, you'll notice in the Print Preview that it'll throw a barcode down here, okay? It's very important to note that. And then what I did is I actually just printed this page out. And then the other thing that's important is that you can take and actually save Melco OS settings. So let me do that one more time. If you go to Tools and you go down to Melco OS Settings, you can actually go over to this Melco OS tab and you can change information. So right now it is set up to load in the design with standard active feed at 2. We could change this and say, you know what, no, I want auto because auto is, in my opinion, better. I know that I'm going on to let's say a fleece sweatshirt, left chest of a fleece sweatshirt. So maybe I want to bring this up to 6. I want to run my speed at 1100 instead of 12. And I can save all that information and I can say, okay, I could also, while I was in there, I should have shown this to you, I could also take and in the Melco OS, I could set the color sequence. So if I knew that it was going to sew in 1, 4, 7, 10, 13, and 16, and I know this is 10 colors, so we'll just go with this. It would loop back on itself. I'll just take and do 2 more colors, so it is a total of 10. So there's my color sequence. Remember that it started in color 1 and ends in 11. I hit apply, and the most important step to this is that I save it in the location, and right now my location is C Designs is where I'm putting this, and I'll show you why that's important here in a minute. So I'm going to save it. In this case, I'm going to overwrite what I had before, and then now I'm going to go over to OS. And so in OS, I can select my machine. And now let's do that split screen again, Nate. So all I'm going to do is I've got the printout, and you can see over here, kind of, if I can point the right way, you can see the screen as well as my printout. So I'm going to take my barcode reader, and I'm going to scan that, and you will see that it actually loaded the design. And if we look at the speed, it changed it to 1100. My first color was 1, my last color was 11. It changed my active feed to 6. So if I preset up my designs this way and save them out, the next time I run this design, all I got to do is pull this out, either a folder or print it back out again and use that as the scan instead of trying to remember everything that I set up in that design. I could also take the end of the day for the next day's production. So I could take the new designs and I could set up all the information that I know. So instead of having to go in and program in the color sequence, do all those things while the machine is running, I could have that stuff pre-programmed and just scan as I go. So if we go back over to the screen for a minute, the last thing that you'll notice is that I've got I think this is the 30 by 30, the 30 by 30 hoop. So if we do the split screen again, let's say that we're going to throw that design onto the 18 centimeter hoop. All I've got to do is scan, and I'm trying to do this where you can see it at the same time. All I got to do is scan that, and you see that the hoop changed on screen to what I'm about to load on the machine. Do we have any questions to this point?
Good shape.
Good shape. Okay. So really important stuff. You know, this is, even if you don't use the barcoding to load the designs, you could take and print out the barcodes and put them on your hoops and use that every day with the barcode reader. Even if you've only got one machine and you're not dealing with multiple machines, it still is more useful to do it via a barcode than to go over and click and then try to scroll through and select it. This is much quicker. So it's not very expensive to get a barcode reader. You don't have to buy it just from Melco. In fact, we don't even sell a barcode reader right now. So get it from Amazon, get it from whoever you know that you can get a good price and get a good barcode reader. But that's how you could use it for loading hoops. That's how you could use it for loading designs. So the barcode reader, once again, something that you have built into your software. If you have an XT, XTS, EMT16, EMT16 Plus, you've got this ability right now. Okay, so if you have to watch this video a couple times over, it'll be up on YouTube as soon as we're done here. But that is the barcode. If you have questions on it, post your questions in the comments and we'll get to that. I want to move on past barcode reading and I want to talk about the queuing system that is in OS. So before we move on to the barcode, let me just show you inside of OS, it's the same as Design Shop. So if you go to Tools, Options, there's a barcode tab. You need to enable it, select your font. You can print your hoops. Now let me caution you about printing your designs. If you click this, Print Designs, and you hit Print, every design that's in this location, this folder location, is going to get printed. It's important that you direct this location to wherever you're saving your designs on, either the local computer or on your network. So if you don't point this in the right place when you scan your barcode, it's gonna throw up a flag that says the design can't be found. So make sure, I saved my design in C Designs when we did that Wilson Farms. I had to make sure that this database path is correct. Now if you have a network connected where you've got your Design Shop PC somewhere else and then you've got your Melco OS computer somewhere else, make sure that you share, you know, a network folder and locate that on the screen, okay? That's probably the trickiest thing, and it really isn't that tricky. So it's just a matter of making sure you take those steps so that the system can go look for the design in a certain folder, okay? No different than you would if I go into the screen here and if I did load design, I've got to change the look in folder to get to a specific folder to find that design. All we're doing is we're telling the system what folder to look in for those barcoded designs, okay? All right, cool. So let's just switch over to full screen Melco OS, not Bravo OS, Melco OS. And so let's talk about something else for a minute. If you click on Tools and Settings, and you go to the Settings tab, you will see there is a Design Queue area. I'm going to have Scott post two links. One is for the Design Queue, and another one's for something called the Master Design Queue. And we're going to show you the difference between the two here and how they could be useful in your case. So in the Design Queue, I've got the ability to do some multiple different things. I can have it where I can have it automatically load the next design. I can have it if I want to be prompted before it automatically loads and I have to say okay or no. I can click this. If I want to show any kind of operator notes that are saved in the wireframe, the OFM design, I can. If it's an expanded or DST, it won't have operator notes. Just keep that in mind. And then I can also have it remove the design. So we're going to uncheck this master queue for a minute. and we're going to actually leave everything unchecked for a second. And so over here, down at the bottom of my screen, you'll notice where the status tab is. This is what all of us are very, very used to seeing. There actually is a tab over to the right called Design Queue. And I can go in here and I can actually take and load multiple designs in here. So if I take and click on, so don't get confused, the load is going to load whatever's in here into the computer or into the machine. If I click add, I can take and add some of these designs, and I'm just holding the shift button to grab or control button to grab multiples, and then I can select the machine that I want to go into. So we're going to go into A4, and I'm going to just do that for all 3 designs. And so I can see that I've got my designs coming in. And the last thing I can do, we'll just go with 1 day for a minute, is I can tell it how many runs I want to do of this. So when I click the 1 day, right now it's only going to do 1 run. If I need to do 3 runs of this, I can actually change that so that if I have this setting on up here, where it auto loads the next design, it's going to wait for it to load 3 times, or run 3 times, 3 complete runs of that, before loading the next design. If I have this remove design clicked, what that's going to do is after it runs 3 times, it will automatically remove that design from the queue and load the next design that's in the queue. If there's no design in the queue after this one, then it'll leave that design up. So this is where, once again, you could take and load designs for the next day. You could have everything prepped up in this queue before you get started, or your operator gets started on the running. The other slick thing is if you go to, and let me just open up a folder real quick. If you go to the C drive on your computer, most everybody has a C program files x86 now if you're using the 64-bit Windows 10 or Windows 7. So if you go in there and go to Melco and go to Melco OS, you're going to see a folder called Jobs. Now inside this Jobs folder, you're going to see 2, in my case I have 2 machines, so I've got 2 folders here, and if I open these up, I can see what's pending, and for this machine there's nothing pending. So let's go back, I grabbed the wrong one. If I go into, and that's the design that's running currently. If I go here, here's that 1 day. So if we come back over here, see how 1 day is in there. This folder, actually, this pending folder, is where those are. So if you want, you can actually take, and instead of being at the machine and doing file, add, file, add, file, add, you could just take on, out of a different folder location, you could just grab designs and put them into the queue via this folder. So you don't even have to be on that computer. You could be, just have access to the folders on that computer via another computer, and you could take and put those designs in there. As the operator is running, then that list gets bigger and bigger. Hopefully that makes sense. It makes sense a lot to me to do it that way, instead of having the operator do file, load design, go searching for the file. Oh, it's not there, so now I got to go look. You find more and more that you're looking for the designs versus just having the designs, taking a couple minutes, sorting through what you need to do for the next time period, be it the next day or this afternoon or whatever it is. You need to have organization there to make better time out of your time or your operator's time. So that's one thing that you can do, is you could take and dump those into that folder. So the last thing that you can do, which is kind of cool, so I'm going to just delete this guy. And so you select it, just click delete. I'm still in the design queue folder. We're going to go over here to tool settings, and now we're going to turn on what's called the master queue. We're also going to turn on auto load and remove the design from the queue. Okay? And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to walk through doing kind of name drops, but we've got 2 machines, so how best can I do that? So I'm going to go ahead and say OK to this, and then I'm going to come over here to either machine. It doesn't matter. You'll notice that my master, or the design queue, turned to master queue. Okay, so anything that I put in either one of these is going to show up on the other. So it doesn't matter which one I'm on, it's the same list of designs. So I'm going to go to Add, and we're going to go to the desktop, and my good friend Scott created a whole bunch of names for me. And so I'm going to grab these guys. I'm going to do a Control-A to grab them all, and I'm going to open them. And it's going to take and load all of my names in here. Okay? It's going to do that in an alphabetical order. So if I have to sort my shirts, I can sort them in alphabetical order of how I'm going to do name drops. We're going to say Chris is going to get 2 instead of 1, just to kind of show you how this works. But we're going to start with Kathy, and we'll load Kathy in. And you'll notice that now Kathy is gone from the list. If I go over to machine 1, Kathy is still gone from the list. So there's no chance that I run Kathy on both machines. And what I'm going to do is we will go, if we can do the split screen and machines for a second. What we're going to do is I'm going to just take and use a little cheater. I'm going to start the machine. I'm not sewing anything, so understand that I don't have fabric in the cloth. I just want to walk through this with you. I'm going to push the wiper and the frame button to clear the trim command. Okay, and then I'm going to take and do the star, the trace button, and the up button. And let me turn on the show stitches sewn thing. There we go. And I'm going to just take and push that, and you'll notice that this walks through trims. So I can walk through the design by trim. And so as soon as I'm done with that design, you notice Chris loaded up. Now if I do that same thing with Chris, so here comes, this would be if I was sewing Chris out. As soon as that one's done, you'll notice that Chris stayed on the screen. And the reason for that is because we're doing 2 Chris's. So same thing, I'm going to just clear that. And you notice that the next one loads in. So once again, if you look at the screen, everything up to Doug is now off of that. I could start over on the other machine. I could grab Jack and load Jack and do the same thing. And you need to make sure that you've got in your settings, you've got the remove design from queue on both machines. I only had it on one machine. I did that on purpose because we get quite a few calls. Well, it works on one machine, but the other one doesn't automatically remove the design. So make sure either you select both machines and do a reset and then set those settings, or set the settings on all of your machines. So multiple different ways that you could take and go through designs in a very quick way without having to load each one of those. Imagine doing Christmas stockings and you're doing 1,000 of them in a week, and you have to manually do file load Bob, file load Chris, file load. It would just be, and I know people do it, it would just be such a time suck compared to, you know, dumping all the names that you need to do that day into the master queue, turning on these features, and then just having the operator feed the stockings if there's no size or color differences, feed the stockings. If there was a color difference, you got to make sure that the operator looks at the notes, make sure that it matches up, and then load. But it's still a whole lot easier than them looking at the color, then going to file, load, try to find the name. That becomes a very monotonous job. And you'll find that errors happen quite often in that case versus putting stuff into the queue, and just let the operator focus on, do I have the right product? Is this, you know, Chris goes on a medium, do I have a medium hooped up and put on the machine? Instead of, now I've got to focus on Chris is a medium, I need to put that on the machine plus load Chris and the right color information. So there's a lot of data that we can capture inside the designs outside of our operation of our machines that can just really, really get our optimization up. I know this has been fairly quick for me. Do we have any questions?
I'm running multiple.
And Scott is turning on his microphone.
I am running multiple machines. Is there a way to select the needle from the machine rather than walking back to the computer each time?
So the question is basically I want to set the color sequence for each design at the machine. So the machine is automatically going to want to do what the color sequence is. You could the only way you could really overwrite that without coming back to the machine is you could press start, then stop, do the escape from the override of the trim command, and then you could take and push the needle button and the left or the right arrow to get to the color that you want, and then press start. If you try to do that right off the bat, so let's say the machine is at a zero stitch state, meaning it's ready to sew that design for the from the very beginning. If you move to the color that you want, you press start, it's going to move back to the color that's assigned in the color sequence. If it's more than one color, you're going to be doing that multiple times because you could overwrite it like I just told you, but then when it gets to the second color, it's going to want to go back to the color sequence. So my suggestion on that, probably the easiest thing to do is put your computer, like with these two machines here, get your computer right up here in the middle and really work that color sequence from the computer. If you've got 4, 6, 8 machines, don't put the computer like I've got it over here where it's on a desk somewhere away from the machines. Have it more centralized. So, if you've got 4 machines, put 2 on either side, put that computer right in the middle. Try to get as large a monitor as you can up above, even if you're using a laptop, just so that if you're over on machine 1 or machine 4, you can still see what's going on. Another trick is if you've got multiple machines, can we do the machine split screen? Thank you. So if I get out of this screen, if I want to see what's going on over here, if I take and push the bullseye on the machine, and if I hold it for 2 seconds, you'll see that it actually changes to that machine. So the view will change from one machine to another. Okay, so you've got to hold it for about 2 seconds, and if you're fast counter, then it's 3 seconds. But you have to hold it. It used to be where you could just touch it and it would go there. We found that actually that caused some communication errors, so we want to make sure that you really meant to push that bullseye. That's why you have to hold it a little bit longer. But that's a really good tip. So if you have that screen up in the middle like I was talking about up here, you're at the machine and you need to see what's going on, you can push that button, you can see what's going on from there. Also, if you have multiple machines, something else that I would suggest, let's go full screen on OS. If we go to Tools, Options, and we go to Notifications, these are all the pop-up banners that pop up in OS when you're using it. My suggestion would be is that you turn off all these pop-up banners. It doesn't mean that it turns off that functionality, it just means that it gets rid of those pop-ups that pop up on your screen. And in reality, you can see that information over in the machine bar. It's going to tell you that it has an applique stop, or it's out of bobbin, or it had a thread break. It'll tell you all that information over here. So there's really no reason to have these on with multiple machines. You just start getting a lot of banner pop-ups on the screen. And to me, that causes a lot of confusion for an operator that's got to use multiple machines. Other questions?
We're in good shape.
Cool. So back to the main screen here. A lot of information covered in less than a half an hour time. I challenge you to use these features that you have. Most of our competition, if not all, either they don't have the capability that we just showed you, which I think you need to, being a commercial account, you need that ability to be able to Efficiency, optimization, all those things are really important to run a company. Or if they have it, they're going to charge you an exuberant amount of money to add that efficiency towards your equipment. Sorry, tongue twisted there. But you've got this functionality. You bought technology when you bought into the Melco family. Use that technology. Feel free to post comments even after this video. We'll post all this stuff up on YouTube, including all the links. But I challenge you to start using this. It's not like it is expensive. You know, it's a $20 investment if you've got Amazon. To me, that's pretty dang cheap and will pay for itself really, really quick. You know, one issue or error that someone loads the wrong design doesn't mean they couldn't scan the wrong design, but it's a lot harder to look at a picture of something and scan it and be wrong versus looking in a folder with 5,000 designs and selecting the right one and accidentally sewing it wrong. Try and use this system, either be it the barcode system. Definitely use it for the hoops. That's a low-hanging fruit, easy one to do. As well as, you know, next time you've got to do name drops or multiple, you know, single files, maybe it's a design with a name below it that changes. Use the queuing system. If you've got multiple machines, play around with using the master queue so that as each machine comes off, it's loading the next design for the operator. Then the operator is just really feeding and exposing, disposing of the finished product, and just, you know, doing that system instead of being over at the computer, then hooping, then fixing a thread break, and, you know, all of a sudden your brain starts getting huge, and next thing you know, it explodes. So try to use some of this stuff. It's been wonderful talking to you guys. Next couple weeks, the boys will be doing, I think, some stocking hats next week.
Yep.
And then talking about the basics. Don't be spooked by the basics. So I think that'll be kind of like a Halloween special for those guys. Yeah, wonderful stuff. Thank you for being a Melco customer, and have a blessed day.